Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and this is going to be a brief little review for Kids on the Slope, Episode 6, You Don't Know What Love Is. And as we're beginning this episode, basically we find out that this is year 2 of high school. So that means the first 5 episodes have basically been a whole year unto themselves. But as we're starting this new year, we find out that the main triumvirate of the series have actually kind of broken up in a manner of speaking. We have Kaoru and Ritsuko are still very much in the same class the way they were previously, but Sentaro is actually moved to a new class, and he couldn't be any less happy about it. He's getting into fights, trying to dominate the students of his new grade or whatever, because that's what he was known as. He was known as the tough guy in the previous year and so forth. And Kaoru and Mitsuko go to confront him about this, trying to get him to stop getting into trouble. When they're confronting him, they actually run into Yuriko, who is in her art class, and she sees them, and of course Sentaro is crushed on her. So, very interestingly though, and I'm kind of proud of him, Kaoru actually mans up and puts Ritsuko's feelings above his own. Now, of course, he's been crushing on Ritsuko, but he assumes, as the viewer does, that Ritsuko's crushing on Sentaro. So he asks her to take him to the nurse's station to bandage up after the fight he had, and talks, Sentaro into agreeing. They head off. And we see very interestingly that in his absence, Sentaro's concerned about Kaoru and actually asks Ritsuko to keep an eye on him, which is really interesting because of all these unrequited love and romance feelings between these characters. It just adds another level to it. When they finally catch up to Kaoru and Yuriko again, we are debuted to a brand new character in the form of this sort of weaselly or beetly, depending on your perspective, Matsuoka, who from the get-go kind of seems like there's something off with him. But this leads to Yuriko asking Sentaro out, basically, as a thank you for posing for the painting, which he did in the previous episodes. And they have their date, and this is where basically she insists on him regaling her with thoughts of Brother June, which is basically her crush. And so it's all just getting thicker and thicker. Everything comes to a head when Sentaro has to go out to the beach clamming with his little siblings. He talks Kaoru and Ritsuko both, respectively, to go with him. And this is when the new character on the block shows up again. We find out that he's actually got his own little rock band. He's a fan of the Beatles, being that it is the 60s after all. And he wants to weasel into Sentaro's life, remove, as he puts it, what's tying him down, to get him to be free enough to be their drummer in their band. And so he's trying to come between all these friends. And it turns out Sentaro's actually given it some thought, and he's actually going to do it. And this is where Kaoru basically loses it. He's used to moving on, as we heard since the first episode. His friends, he's had to leave friends behind, hasn't heard from them again, and he doesn't see himself as ever really having a long-lasting relationship. So, of course, he's just completely having a breakdown. And he basically, after some harsh words, leaves them on the beach, and that's where we leave the episode. Just so much interesting stuff, and I mean, very relatable. No matter what your age, you've had relationships and friendships and love interests like this, and that's what this series is doing masterfully. And I couldn't be more impressed. I'm excited for the next episode. So that's going to be all I have to say on it, and I'll catch you later. Peace.